The city of Los Angeles is considering a motion that would stop tech companies and private equity firms from buying up single family houses. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have another great story for you today coming out of the beautiful city of Los Angeles, California. As you know, it is one of the most progressive places in the entire country, and obviously they're very tenant-friendly and anti-landlord, anti-real estate investor there. Even though, if you really took a good look at their economy is it's a real estate economy. I mean, the whole place is valued so high. I mean, you can make so much money if you're able to wait until your property appreciates that, man, I mean, it would be great if I had bought 20 years ago in Los Angeles and I was selling now. Unfortunately, it's not so great for small mom and pop landlords there. But the article that I'm going over today, it's actually going to be covering the story. Basically, what they've done is they've come up with a motion to try to stop these tech companies like Zillow that was buying up houses up in Los Angeles, and private equity firms like American Homes for Rent, which buys a lot of houses and turns them into rentals. So what they think is that these companies are buying up the houses. It's driving up the cost of housing. It's making it unaffordable. But what they don't realize is that housing was already unaffordable before any of these companies existed out in California. The problems that cause the housing to be unaffordable have nothing to do with these companies. It has to do with the policies, the laws they put in place, and the fact that they won't let builders build. But before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below, and let me know what you think, okay? Do you think that the reason that housing is unaffordable in California is because, private equity firms and tech companies started buying up houses recently? I don't, okay? There were stories 20, 30 years ago about how unaffordable it was out there, okay? Way before these private equity firms even existed in terms of buying these houses. So this article comes from losangeles.cbslocal.com, and it says, LA City Council to consider motion to stop tech companies from buying up family homes. And let's see what it says. The Los Angeles City Council Thursday will consider a motion that seeks to prevent tech companies and private equity firms from purchasing affordable, predominantly single-family housing as investments. The housing crisis has been further exacerbated by high-tech companies such as Zillow, Opendoor, Rocket Homes, and Redfin, as well as private equity firms, the motion reads. These companies primarily target affordable single-family homes and compete to buy up as much inventory as possible, flip them, and then sell them for a profit. And that's all very true, okay? But I actually think it's a boost for the economy because, simply put, you're buying up old housing stock, you're, putting it up to the modern standards, right? And then you're just reselling it for market value. You're not holding on to it. You're not hoarding it in that sort of situation. So, these companies coming in, they're only buying houses from people who are already selling them. And then they're just turning around and selling them again. In fact, Zillow found out that the model doesn't really work very well. So these other companies might find out the same thing. This might not be a model for a large tech company. This is something that small real estate investors and smaller companies that they can do a lot better, okay? If passed, the motion will instruct the chief legislative analyst and the city attorney to report on recommended strategies that LA can use to prevent tech and private equity firms from engaging in speculative practices involving affordable single-family housing. The motion comes amid LA's worsening affordable housing crisis, with the ranking among the top most unaffordable cities each year, which has also contributed to the city's growing homeless population. Now, and that's completely ridiculous, okay? So, speculative. I don't really consider house flipping to be a speculative endeavor by these tech companies, okay? They're using the same data that all of us real estate investors use when we're looking at housing value and we're trying to make the house worth more so that we can sell it for more. We see that, hey, this house here is undervalued. We're going to fix it up and then we're going to sell it at market value. That's not speculating. I mean, it might look that way, but it's not, okay? Now, California, I mean, think about it. They've had shows out there like Flip or Flop and all sorts of stuff on HGTV for the last 20, 30 years because it's such a hot market. And so it's saying that, hey, these big companies can't do it, but, these small guys can't. I mean, that doesn't even make any sense, okay? And my worry is that, hey, they passed this law for these big, we don't want these big speculators. Well, how long before it falls down to the small guy who's just flipping one house? Not very long, okay? They're going to put these anti-flipping laws into place. Like, oh, well, you're speculating. You're causing that price of housing to come up. But I'm just doing one house. Doesn't matter, okay? That's why I say when I don't like to see these new laws, these new rules and new regulations where they're supposedly targeting these huge players, but next thing you know, it's the small, operators, the guy like me who does one house at a time, who have to face the consequences and play by the same rules, and it's not even fair. In late September, California Governor Gavin Newsom signed a string of new laws directed at tackling the state's ongoing homeless crisis. Among the big changes, one of the laws will give the state more power over how cities and counties spend funds to solve homelessness. The legislation also sets aside money toward the construction of 84,000 affordable homes. Newsom also signed a law in September that will allow homeowners across the state to build more housing on the land they own. And I don't think any of that is going to have any effect whatsoever on the homelessness issue that's going on in California, okay? They think that passing all these laws and rules and regulations is going to help homelessness. No, it's the exact opposite. And I've said this before. Every rule that you make a developer or a landlord comply with actually makes housing costs increase, not decrease. Okay, when they say that they, want this, these anti-flipping stuff to basically help in the homeless crisis out there, that's not what's going to happen. Instead, what's going to happen is there's going to be less buyers out there who are able to buy up people's properties, and when there's less buyers, people are going to just hold on to these properties longer, which is going to, basically it's going to restrain the supply. And what I want to see is turnover in houses. I want to see people moving out of their old house, moving into a new place. And when people are moving around a lot, they say, hey, maybe we need to build more housing on top of that. So they talk about they want to build 84,000 additional affordable homes. Now, the way that the government considers affordable, I don't really know. I mean, in California, that could be $1 million house. So, it doesn't really make much sense. The best way to build affordable homes is find empty plots of land and just build just tons of tract houses on them. Remove all the ridiculous environmental regulations saying you got to have solar panels and all that crap on the house. Remove all the red tape, that requires hundreds of thousands of dollars for building permits. And guess what? Housing becomes a lot more affordable. But they won't do that. They won't do that because they have in their head that, oh, well, we got to have all this and that. Well, you know what people are going to do? People are going to say, you know what? I can't afford to live in California, so I'm just not going to live there. I mean, I'm going to move to Arizona because in Arizona, they don't have all those building regulations. They will just build tons and tons and tons and tons more housing. They'll pave over the entire desert in Arizona. I lived there for 4 years. I know, man. Go out to Phoenix, go out to Tucson. You'll see new housing construction everywhere. It is unbelievable how much housing. And it's all the flood of people coming in from California who can no longer afford to live there. And the same thing is happening out in Nevada, near Las Vegas and near Reno. Okay? They're just building a ton of housing for California refugees. Okay? And that's just what's the gonna happen, because if you think that you can just legislate your way into being affordable, it's just not possible. The more rules you pass, the more regulations, the harder it will become. And that's just always the way it has always been. And so, completely ridiculous. They think that this is going to make any sort of difference. As of August 21st, the LA City the LA city recorded a price increase of 11.3% compared to the prior year. LA City Council President Nuri Martinez said in her motion, low-income Angelenos who have lived in their neighborhoods for decades are unable to compete with these iBuyers. This has led to many longtime residents being pushed out of their homes, neighborhoods, and communities. Oh, give me a break, okay? How are you getting pushed out by not being able to compete? Okay, that doesn't even make any sense. So you're saying, well, we decided we wanted to buy a new home, so we couldn't afford the going rate for the other houses in this neighborhood. Well, if you can't afford to live in that neighborhood, then you have to choose somewhere else, okay? Now, Los Angeles is filled with suburbs. Some of them nice, some of them not as nice. Some of them are super expensive, some of them are less expensive. So you might have to move to an area where you haven't lived before in order to afford it. That is just the way things work. And if you can't afford Los Angeles, you might find yourself in Phoenix, okay? Or Tucson, or Las Vegas, or somewhere else outside of California completely. But yeah, I mean, I don't think this is a good thing for real estate investors. I don't think this is a good thing for anyone who is trying to invest in California. And I could see this really coming down hard in the future on the small guys especially.